There we go. Recording is live for the SUSE QE Tools Workshop. This day, the 18th of March 2022. Today, I would like to talk with you about how to report tickets, investigate, etc. So, how to come up with good bug reports which are helpful for whoever will become the assignee. And that is motivated by a ticket. Unfortunately, sorry about that, it's internal, so not accessible to most or to some. But basically, there was feedback from the YAS development team to the according YAS that often issue reports that come both from external contributors as well as QA teams don't have the required information or are sometimes misleading in the content. So this is in particular on product bug reports on Bugzilla. And there are also some improvements on what could be done, in particular to update the existing OpenQA template when new issues are created through OpenQA on Bugzilla. And I will show that. I guess most, if not all of you, know that feature already. I'll still show it because it's easy and it's also something many people use starting back. Also, what's mentioned there is a link, for example, in that case, to a guide for bug reports from Mozilla. So here, but we have bug writing guidelines. We also have something for OpenSUSE. So if you look on the OpenSUSE wiki, then you will find submitting bug reports, and there are also links to various components linking to, I guess that one, yeah. So how there's the OpenSUSE bug report Mozilla, and I guess that one also links back to the bug writing guidelines on Mozilla, but also adds specific stuff like RPM information. So what's important for when you want to report a bug? Often one of the most important things is how can anyone reproduce a bug, because reproducible then all this would be really hard except for trivial issues to fix it. Well, with the power of OpenQA, often OpenQA tests are a way to reproduce it, but on the other hand, OpenQA tests can sometimes be, a bit heavyweight when you say, we have this bug, but it only happens after you execute these 20 other test modules in before. For Firefox to crash, you first need to do the installation like this and in that environment. And then you have to run like 50 console tests and install the Apache server and Thunderbird, and then Firefox crashes, something like that. So it's helpful if you have steps to reproduce a bug, and even better it is, and it's a minimal reproduce. Then it mentions some other part like make sure your software is up to date. I mean, when you start with what we have for this is commonly done automatically, and then it says about when entering a new bug, also provide something like clear, unique summary. That's a very important thing as a start. Provide precise steps to reproduce the expected results so that people know what do you actually want to see? Why did you report the bug? What is if it's a regression, how did it look like when it last worked for you when you reported a bug? And then the actual results, like what is currently visible, how does it currently behave, and how does that differ from and then of course, if you can provide as much additional information that's relevant as possible. For example, some system about there's some system information, like if there's a crash, then maybe there's additional crash data, the overall system usage, the memory usage, CPU usage, what else is running at the time, what packages were installed, where else would that happen, or what other relevant scenarios which are comparable, but maybe where that does not happen. Anything you would like to add on what's important in general? What you think is like a best practice for reporting bugs?
I would say to include some logs. Wow.
Include log files, yes, right? Yeah, of course you can attach a file, so that's helpful. Or also link the information, of course, with OpenQA, as long as a job is there, we can link to that, right?
Try to reread it once and think about that someone else reads it with not the information that you have in your mind, but information that you write down. And is this complete for someone else to understand what you want to tell them?
Thank you. That's a very good idea. Yeah, before you click the submit button, read it once more and put yourself into the shoes of someone seeing that bug that should be informed about the bug and how they would be able to understand what you want from them. Okay, something else? Okay, so much about this Mozilla bug writing guide. So this was just one example. Now I picked a random example. This I think it was the first in the list of tumbleweed build. Let's take a look on the failed. And I'm just picking the third. It already has a bug, but I would like to show shortly if anyone would encounter a failing OpenQA test. And we see that there's this failing module and it fails in this step. There's a little bug icon. There's also a little flash icon if you want to report a test issue. There's also hover text guiding you on what that does. So if I would click that link, you can see at the bottom of the shared screen here, where it says, where should I point? Like this. The URL that it would go to, so it would create a progress ticket. And here it would create bug in Bugzilla. So if I would open that, then you would see this window. It doesn't have all the fields that that Bugzilla offers by default. So these are the, I don't know how is it called, like the basic fields. You are able to click on that button and then it would show the advanced fields in the URL where with JavaScript would toggle the buttons. It shows expert fields. But let's take a look here. So what I see often happening is that even with that limited selection, people don't know what they should select or that they should select something. So for product, Tumbleweed, and for component, we should select something. So where did we start with? We started with, that's an AppArmor profile, and this is for user has been SMBD. So which component should I select? Any hints?
It depends, right? You have to dig into the code, the module, to see where it fails.
Right. So this is about AppArmor, and then the SMBD is something about the Samba server. So it says Samba. So I would say, if I don't know better, it's either AppArmor or Samba, right? So anyone wants to make a pick? Security is a good idea. Could be security.
This is the AppArmor, but
yes. With AppArmor is active, the Samba should work well. This test case test this.
right? So you're saying that AppArmor works means that the bug is in Samba?
No, if the AppArmor is in enforcing mode, the Samba should work also. If there are a loss or denied audit record, then Samba or AppArmor may have some issues. But
Right.
it depends. Yeah.
So right. So we don't know exactly. It could be AppArmor, it could be Samba, it could be security. I would say in the end, we have to choose something. So I would choose Samba. And of course, we should write somewhere that is related to AppArmor. And then I should click submit, right? Am I done here? Because you know there's wall of text, so I'm good, right?
No.
No?
No.
No.
No? Okay.
9.
So let's start from the top. I mean version, this is for Tumbleweed, so that's easy. I can select it, or I guess I need to select it, but it doesn't matter. And these fields I will ignore because I don't know how to use pull down menu, right?
Right.
Okay. Actually, there is a help available here. So what we can do is we can actually click there. And if I click there, then I come to the glossary, which can be actually really helpful. If I look to severity, then it says here, like, there are different severity settings, like major, minor, normal, and there's severity. And then it says, see the importance matrix. And I think this is important to point out that there is the importance matrix, and that one lists the severity as well as priority, and then services priority in business. I would say actually for us, what matters is most and foremost the severity. This is also why it's showing up on the primary view. That's part of the basic fields. Priority can be helpful, but this is only something that comes after the bug was reported. And the priority is set by a member of the development team. So priority may suggest the order the developers will work on bugs. Let's say, for example, we file something which we find super important, and then the developers choose P4 as priority, which would be low. Then we understand, like, okay, we consider it important, they consider it as so, and then we can talk to them and say, like, hey, maybe I wasn't making myself clear, and also the other way around, so that we as a bug reporter, we know afterwards, like, okay, so this is what I can expect. Like, can I expect a bug fix soon? Should I invest the time? But the severity, that's set by the reporter. Yes, it can be changed afterwards, but this is important for the initial assessment to make readers understand the meaning. For example, as critical, like there's a crash, there's data loss or corruption, a severe memory leak, etc. Then we should select critical. Major would be a major loss of function. Normal is actually what is selected by default. So because so many people don't select severity explicitly, what I commonly suggest is to avoid normal and rather really be explicit and select something different. Is it minor or major or something more extreme? Minor would be something trivial, like only cosmetic, some UI, something that could be easily worked around, like, you know, the button doesn't work if you click it once, but if you click it twice, then it works. So it's an issue for sure, but, you know, the workaround is so easy, then the severity is minor. An enhancement would be basically well below that. If you just say, maybe it's not even a bug, but you know, something that could be improved. Does that make sense? Okay. Thanks. So that's what we have here. And then, well, hardware and OS, well, we can select something, especially if it's really architecture specific. For example, I could select AH64 when we just observe it in AH64. Here, we observed it on a 64-bit machine, which is x86-64. We could select that, but likely the same problem appears on the other architectures as well. So I guess it's fine to keep other or all, because likely this is not architecture. Okay. And now to the summary. Now, where does this text come from? Let me show you what I mean. If I go to enter a new bug and then I go to Tumbleweed, then we have this. So this is the same what we had before, but this is empty. Why is it empty? Well, because by default it just asks you to write a proper summary. What does the glossary say for summary? It says a short sentence which succinctly describes the bug and acts as the bug's title. Well, okay. Maybe that was obvious. So what should I write there? Stuff crashes, right? Is that good? Oh, it's even listing me possible topic. Of course, we can do better than that. Yeah, Janis?
No, I was saying you can do better.
Thank you. Right, so let's say something with F armor and slumber. Maybe that's, I mean, it's still rather crappy, but it's better. What OpenQA does by default is it writes the current build. Why does it do that? Well, because for OpenQA, we commonly test like every build of a product. So this is why there's already helpful information to say, oops, this is now the most recent build maybe, or the build before that. Maybe for Tumbleweed, it's also not that helpful. I guess for Leap and more helpful, because then we know, like, does this affect the alpha version or the beta version, or that build which comes between beta 2 and beta or whatever.
I would say it's still important for Tumbleweed as well, because it gives an indication, especially if the bug is older, on how long it's been there already.
Ah, right.
Besides actually just looking at the date when the bug was created.
Yeah, right. So that's a good point. Thank you for bringing it up. So it's helpful for you to say, like, oh, the bug is there, but we see immediately on the summary that this is from the February builds, right?
Right. And also we have this published changelogs of a snapshot, so we can actually also easily correlate with which changelog that would contain that change.
Exactly. So
there's some help in it.
Somewhere we should have the information on which this build, on which build the error was. Right.
Really, does the template use the build of the version where I'm reporting the bug, or the latest failing one? So for instance, if I would report it today, but it already failed since yesterday, does it use the date of today or of yesterday?
That's a very good question. So it puts in the build corresponding to the job where you clicked. Okay. So it would be the build of today. And before you report the bug, you know, if you would say, like, oh, there's a bug here, I click the bug report icon. There are multiple ways of how you could do deeper investigation in OpenGate before reporting the bug. For example, there's the investigation tab, which would tell you about the first bad. And so we could go there. Also, you can check the next and previous results, and then maybe you would see, oops, this is not just failing since the current build, but since a longer time. So, for example, it would be build 0308, but here what it put is 0317. So that's the current build from where you clicked the bug report icon. But yes, it would be better if you encounter a new failure, to cross-check where did it actually first appear. And the investigation link helps there to find the first bad. So if we check the history from here, then we see like, yes, it was fine in before, and then it only failed in that build. So if I would go now into the test details view and go to this and click here, then it would show that information. So that's better. One could suggest to say, why can OpenQA not fill that automatically itself? Well, the problem is that OpenQA can never be as smart as you. Can improve something, but one problem that I see here right now, it could be that the scenario was failing in before for some other reason in some other modules. So that specific bug, OpenQA doesn't know if it's already since then. Okay. So we already improved that by, instead of selecting this link, we selected one to the older build. So that's great. Now I also need to select Samba here. Now about the severity field, as I said, we should try to not set to normal. What would you say? Is it, how would you judge the severity of the current bug that we are about to virtually report? Let me make that major for now, because we can, that's also something that can still be changed, so that's okay. How about this title? Oops. So this is set automatically by OpenQA test fails in, and you can see there are many different examples where it always starts with the same string, and then it gives the current test module name. Yeah, so it's already making it a little bit more specific by saying that's the current test module name. But I guess we can do better than that. For example, what I would do is something like, you know, maybe it really helps. It could be that I'm not understanding enough of the issue at hand, but maybe it helps if I include that information. Okay. I would say, and I think we see that we see that we are not going to report the bug because it was actually reported, and we see that bug which was reported by Dimstar, and Dimstar, you use just the standard template text. I think it's okay. It's still
basically whenever
enough.
it's sort of obviously only the module, if it's installation based, I try to add some more information.
Right.
Here it was also the point that just when I filed, I only had some minimal information what's going on.
Yeah.
Usually when I file a bug, I try to already get some information, like why could it start happening now, like package updates and the like. I try to mention something which did not exist at the time I filed this bug. I only found this out later.
Right.
Which was actually an interesting exercise in this test case.
Okay, cool. So I think that's perfectly fine. So it's a template text, right? So you can add something, you can delete the text if you say, no, that's completely wrong, and maybe it's not relevant, and we could just say in OpenQA test fails in a Samba app armor profile test, maybe like that, and then put that like this. So that's free text. It's template, and it's supposed to be adapted and changed so that it does make. And but of course, if it fits, if it perfectly fit already, then let it be there. It's okay. But if we have 100 reports which on the summary say OpenQA test fails in installation or OpenQA test fails in Firefox, and we have 20 other like that, This is just plain annoying and not really helpful. Now let's come to the content. So keep in mind, okay, Pavel.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just came to my mind that I understand this problem that we have a million bugs where there is no detail, just they are auto-generated. Wouldn't be the solution to put blank spaces to this template? I mean, you can see this in some GitHub repositories where you file a pull request or an issue. There is already a template which is forcing you to write there something like provide the version, provide the expected result. Those fields you have to fill in. Wouldn't be those fields helpful?
Something like this?
No, I see Bugzilla.
I mean, where we put something like special letters in the text, like and
No. I
put
mean,
your text here that needs to be replaced.
Yes, but I mean, when you are opening the ticket, you have the description, and it's automatically generated, right?
Yes.
And but there is no space for the user input. I mean, the user can like provide some additional input, but the template is not asking the user to do so.
I know. It's a common problem I see. So let me show an example. So in the main OpenGate test distribution, OpenSUSE test, if I create a new pull request, then let's see if I can quickly do that. And then it has this text. The problem I see is we tried it in many different ways. The problem I see is that unfortunately, I still see many pull requests with this text included, which is, in my eyes, it's stupid, can happen by mistake. But I think the problem is that it's still not clear that, oh, I need to change the text, you know? And also here, that XYZ, if you take a close look, you will realize like, oh, that's just the example text. So I'm wondering what's the best way to mark
Oliver,
variables.
This is quite surprising to me. I mean, you see many more pull requests than I do, but I did not see such blank pull requests maybe in a year. Yeah.
Okay.
It's strange that people are able to keep it that empty. You at least remove the text,
yeah,
you know.
I hope so, that at least remove it.
Yeah, it's a bit sidestepping, but for me this happens very often because I use the GitHub command line tool. So it just create the JHPR create, and then it uses the template and creates it, and then I modify it. So basically, whenever I create a pull request, it's with the template. That's just because the workflow is using the CLI tool much easier to create pull requests, and then it gives me the link. I can already fire off the verification run in the background, and then I come to the web interface.
So I have a special hint for you. Okay, trying to create a pull request was making my browser stuck because it had so many such a big diff. But if you like, you can take a look into my little helper there, which is also using command line tools, but putting the git commit message of the last commit, which is often the only commit, and create a pull request.
The tool uses that for the header or the subject of the pull request. That's fine. It just doesn't do it for the rest of the template.
Yeah, okay. So
yeah, it does put it. That's true, but there's still the template text because the tooling doesn't replace the template itself. So it's a little bit.
Maybe your approach works a little bit different than mine, because for me I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
but even if so, then you almost immediately go to your newly created pull request and you modify the description, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so
Oh,
I'm
absolutely, yes.
I'm talking about cases where I see that on the web page and the pull request was open for, let's say, at least half an hour. So people likely had the chance to edit it and didn't. So yeah, we
Okay,
can.
so you're not just saying because you see it in your mailbox of a new pull request created.
Yeah,
Because there it's
then
kind
you
of
would see
obvious
that.
that you see
Yes.
it like this all the time.
Right, there you would see that. No, I'm not talking about that. I mean in the already edited pull request. So yeah, we need to we can think about it, how to improve that. As I said, in some cases it's completely fine to have a subject like that. Same problem also applies to the description. But first, before we come to ideas about that, first I would like to make sure that we have a common understanding of what should go into a bug report, regardless if you create it with some kind of tools, if you use the OpenGate bug reporting template, or if you do it if you do it completely from scratch. Because I think in the end, it's more important that people know and agree on what should be there, and then afterwards only decide, like, when using different approach, how do you do that? Okay. So initially, I mean, I created that structure of observation, reproducible, expected result, and further detail. But I didn't invent it that we should put something like expected result there. We also just saw it on the Mozilla bug reporting process description. So what do we have here? We have observation, and I would like to start with that. But again, I'm reminding you constantly that this is just a template, so you can change it at any time. You can also propose changes to the bug report. Okay, but this is what I think works out so far. Observation just states the facts as we can observe them. And for OpenGate tests, well, it can be as simple as saying fails in, and then it provides a link to one specific step in OpenGate. That's, if I would click that link, then I'm ending up exactly on the same step where I just clicked the little bug reporting icon. So it's this box here, this red box. Okay, so it's already a starting point. I suggest to add much more in that observation. Okay, I would like to have the template be usable for experts, so that, you know, because I think most or all of you become experts in a short time. So I would rather not add more or much more boilerplate text like put your observation here, because then power users would need to always delete this line in all the sections, and newbies still have a chance to overlook it. So what I'm trying to do is to teach you or any newcomer to say, please understand what should be put there. And then for power users, they can still decide what sections they want to keep as is and which one they want to. But definitely, yes, there should be additional information here, because as Phoenix said, put yourself into the shoes of a reader of the bug report. And maybe you as a reader, you are a maintainer of AppArmor or Samba, and OpenGate is maybe not your daily work tool. So what you would read is to say, OpenGate test fails in who, and then some link. I mean, it's fine, we can click the link and we see something, but clicking here the first time, I could completely understand if people just say like, whoa, I'm overwhelmed. I see a red box and something which looks like screenshots. Where's the bug now? So definitely there should be some more information here. And I have a good example for you how far it could look like, because the original bug that Dominic reported has additional information. So this fails in AppArmor profile. This goes to the component AppArmor. So someone that knows AppArmor And what is included here, to me, it looks like, well, AppArmor logs. So I'm pretty sure that the maintainer of AppArmor can read and understand and do something out of that, right? What about the other parts? So the test suite description, this was a later addition. And someone that wants to try to explain what's the idea behind the test suite description? Does anybody think that the test suite description is useless? Serves no purpose. Nobody can explain what it's there for. Buddy?
Once again, what's the question?
The test suite description. What is it for? Why do we have it in a bug report? So it's automatically added here, and that text is the same as we have here. And this describes the test suite AppArmor profile. For us, that means that useful text should be in the test suite. Yes, not helpful text, then also not helpful text will end up here. But here I think it can help because it says who's the maintainer of the current test suite, whatever a test suite is. I mean, that up for explanation maybe. But it has a description which says test AppArmor profiles with an existing disk image. We could argue about the detail, but I think it helps because it gives a general idea of, so this is what the test should do, right? It should test AppArmor profiles based on a disk image. And this is something about Samba. So somehow we try to use that AppArmor profile for Samba, and that doesn't work as expected. So this is, I guess, why Dimster kept it, because he thinks it's useful, or out of laziness, which is also okay.
Well, a bit of both.
That's okay.
I think it can be useful if the person actually looking at the bug doesn't understand what the test does. He can ask the maintainer.
Yeah,
that's more
right.
of less information,
I
which
mean,
I get from this at least.
I mean, if everything is obvious from the log excerpt, of course you don't need to look further. Then the next section is reproducible. So what should be put into reproducible? What's the purpose of reproducible?
Exactly the steps that reproduces the fail.
Right. So I would say it can answer two questions. The first question would be, is it actually reproducible? And the second one would be, if it's reproducible, how would we be able to reproduce? And that information which is put there is, I would say, only answering half of that. It's only helping a bit. What it tells here is that it fails since at least this build with that link. So that's the same job which we report about. So I think at this point, it would be more helpful if we replace that test and say, first time seen in this tumbleweed build. But maybe we can say, so we can see what it looks like. Oh yeah, we actually have more information, because we have information from the automatic investigation runs. The automatic investigation runs tell us that the retry job failed. So this is likely not a sporadic test. We can now include that information. And we also see that here, retry failed. So if we just retry, it fails. If we go back to the last good test, it passes. If we go back to the last good build, it still fails. If we go back to the last good test and build, passes. So we can include that information. I would have said it's from that information, it's not a product regression. Likely, Dimster and Lily, you can correct me, but likely maybe the AppArmor test was now extended and it's showing a problem that was even there before or something.
Yeah, it's a bit twofold. I mean, most of the time when I file a bug, this information isn't available yet because I'm faster than OpenQA. And second of all, this is a product bug that has been exposed by test changes.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit trickier here. But
yeah,
in normal
right.
cases, yes, I agree. The way you look at the things is
So
this is test.
I see what you did regarding being faster is that you had an actual rerun of the test, and that still reproduces the problem, and then you reported the bug, right?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. And you even wrote it there. Perfect. So first time seen in this. So we could also say yes, right? Because we know it's reproducible. Or we could say yes, the OpenQA tests, or the
maybe just copy the investigation results since that's the answer you want.
Yeah, I didn't want to copy it, but I wanted to link the automatic investigation results from this comment. But sure, we can also include that information there. No, we cannot that easily copy it, or it would be more work, because if I copy that, then it cannot include the job results. So we would need to write it in text form there somewhere.
Because it doesn't use Unicode, right?
Yeah.
That might be a feature request to make copying easier.
Yes, I think is a valid idea to have some kind of text-only copy format when you actually copy it. That's a good idea. Right, about expected result. So what should we write there? I guess here that includes the same, yes. So it's correct that the last good build showed a passed test, but in that case, maybe it's not actually a good expected result. So we can say that the last good test result was this. I'm not including the build information because I think the build information is misleading because there's no change in the build, but it's newer tests since then. And here is the last good test results was, but that was with old tests that maybe did not show these problems. Likely the problem was already present. Does that help, Janis?
Because the time passed, I want to bring up some things that I have in mind from the beginning, right? So basically, Dominic or Dimsa bring some good points also. First of all, I'm not in favor of the template. If you put in the title, the OpenQA test fail, you end up with many same bugs. Like the main point is how do you gonna find something on Bugzilla when you create something? And usually you copy paste the error,
Yep.
right? So there's one thing, but I'm not sure if it's the best. So I'm gonna give you another bug to open to compare and tell me if the template compared to this is more helpful. Because for
Right.
me, the template is pretty much useless. The most of this information should be like in file details, for example.
Yeah,
And
I will look into that bug shortly. Before, I would like to finish the last section, which is further details. Further details by default.
Wait.
Yeah, go on.
Before we go on with the expected result, I have a slight problem with maybe in this case, because you as the test reporter are the only person in charge to actually clarify if this maybe is a yes or no. The developer on the other side, where you have to assume that doesn't have any knowledge about OpenQA, might not have the skill or the knowledge in order to answer that. So leaving here this question open is a source for further confusion, or will inevitably trigger from the developer to ask, what does this maybe means? Was it there before or not? It's kind of implicitly asking already for a question from the developer. You get what I mean, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, what I'm doing here is not really looking into that specific issue, because I'm not investing time to dig as deep as you suggest should be done here. I'm only doing that for illustrative purposes. But you're right that we should be as clear and concise as possible. So if I say last good test result was this is correct. We saw that, yeah. But that was with old tests. We also know that this is true. And I understood from Dimster that it was present then before. So I'm assuming, or, you know, in that example, in reality, I would likely, or I should do a manual verification of an older run, an older build, to confirm that the problem was already present in older builds. We just didn't have automated tests there. We could even trigger an OpenQA job for that. For example, I could just clone what was formerly known as the last good builds, like that one, with newer tests, and see that it would also fail, right? That should confirm it. In principle, we can also trust these investigation results, because they show clearly that if we run rerun tests with the last good build, but the current tests, then it also fails. So basically, yeah, and now I'm convinced, but I would just need to cross-check that it actually still fails in that very step. And yes, it does. So what we can do, not even a manual verification, we can say an automatic verification confirmed that the problem was already present in older builds. For example, see that link where exactly that step was done in the older build. With newer test, same problem happens. So it's not a regression of the build. Okay. So Phoenix, is that sufficient and clear enough?
Yeah. My statement was just, if you leave questions open that you as the reporter are the only person that can answer, then this implicitly asks for or is kind of a source of frustration for the developer on the other side.
It wouldn't really be fair to put everything like that on the shoulders of. Okay, and then there's further details with the one link. But yes, you can put everything in here as you like. Put more logs, screenshots, your description, cross-check of other products, scenarios, manual test results, etc. So it's all further details, right? Why do we have that one link to latest? Well, there are two reasons for that. One reason being that it could be that when anybody looks at the bug, the original results were already pruned. They shouldn't be normally, because jobs which have a bug link are treated as important, so they are kept around for longer. This is why when you look into the past, you only find tumbleweed builds which have a handful of failed jobs and no other results, because only the important ones are kept. And the second, and by that you would be able to find at least latest results and check if the results reproduce there. And the second reason why that link is there is because you might be interested in, let's assume we only see that bug after 3 months as an AppArmor maintainer. And then we ask ourselves the question like, well, okay, that was already, maybe the bug was reported before Christmas. I changed so much in AppArmor, and Samba package was changed. Maybe it's already fixed meanwhile. Does it still reproduce? And so we can check the link to latest, and then we would be able to see, yes, it was reported in build 0308. Still, the same problem happens in 317. Okay, so this is what you can put in bugs, and you should put much more. Now I'm showing the example that Yanis mentioned. So that one was reported by Jose Lauso in November of last year. And it starts with runtime fails to pull this, and this is the OpenQA test that has detected the issue. And Yanis, you're saying that this is more helpful?
This is more simple to see, oh, I have the same problem. Also, by that, you can find more easy what if your problem, because as the test change on OpenQA and you have the same type, you end up with many same things that is irrelevant at the end, because either because the test have changed or the package has changed. But here I can see very fast, oh, this is actually the problem I have. And
yes.
I have one link. And
I would say this includes the most important information. And definitely this should be something that people put into the description in like observation. So for example, here, it's a very good idea if you have that information to include it, for example, in the block of observation.
Yeah, but when I notice that most of the people, because they have the template pretty much ready, they don't bother to do more things.
So I know that the problem is what's potentially missing here is first,
there are missing
I think it's quite clear. It's missing a bit of structure. So you need to understand like, oh, so this is the information about the expected result and reproducibility. It's there, the information is there. It's just, it doesn't have a title. There is a link to the OpenQA test. What is missing, what could potentially have been a problem. So luckily the bug was fixed as long as the job was still there, but eventually the job might be deleted.
The question is, when you see this compared to the template as it is, can you understand what's the problem?
Yeah, I think if you would create a bug like this where it says we have an OpenQA test that fails, and this is the details which show what happens, and it doesn't happen with other images, that information is really helpful. And if you say the test to description doesn't help here, fine, we delete it. If we say we don't want to put the expected result, yeah, we can also delete that. So yeah, the other question is, does it having a template ready, does it motivate people to not put the detailed information there? Would they put the detailed information there if they just start with a blank page?
No, I mean, you can have a template with the sections that needs to be completed, like description, reproducible.
Yeah.
In the additional steps, you can add some links from OpenQA, but doesn't say anything about the bug.
Right. Due to time constraints, let me suggest the following, that we should have a follow-up where we can discuss how to improve the current bug reporting templates as well as wiki pages which describe what to conduct. So I think we still have material to cover that. Dimstar?
Yeah, I think it doesn't really make a big difference if you have a template or don't have one. You will find terrible bug reports in both cases. With the template, at least we have some basic information in there, which at least gives some hints. I mean, I can easily give you bug reports which have been done without the template and which are completely nonsense, like this one, for example. I mean, nobody will be working on that because it's just no information that gives anything. It's a pure fact being described, but it doesn't describe if this is a problem.
There is one thing to do, though, to create a checklist in the template and say, did you provide the right description? Did you provide logs? Did you, so you have the minimum.
Please remember
that's nice
all
for
this.
a first-time consumer, but I'm reporting like 10 times a bug per day coming from OpenQA.
That's what I mean. I would like to make it easy for the power user, but still helpful for the newcomer. So we need to find the right balance there. Please keep all these good ideas in mind, and let's do a follow-up for that to come up with ways to improve our current templates. For today, I would like to wrap it up here. So thank you all. I hope that for some as newcomers, that was a helpful introduction. For some of the experts, maybe a nice refresher or a teaser to bring you to new ideas of how we can improve both our automated tools as well as manual process. And with that, I would like to conclude the current topic, and the topic for the next time on the next week should be about the to-do functionality on OpenQA. That's linked to a ticket which you can find here. And so next time, next Friday, to-do functionality. Thank you for your attendance, and see ya.